Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second DAP item, 4405 East West Highway. My name is Grace Bogdan. I'll be facilitating today's meeting, which is being recorded. My laptop has died, so I cannot look at my notes, but this is the second site plan presentation at the panel, and the applicant had provided a submission showing some great comparisons of the refinement done from the previous presentation to now. And with that, I'm going to just hand it over to Pat and her team to explain.
Thanks, Grace. Pat Harris with Lurch-Early and Brewer. Good morning, everyone. With me are Chris Huffer and Yanina Cusco of SK&I, and then the applicant, Michael Weiss and John Kemmer of Transwestern. So we were before the DAP back at the end of June, and at that time, the DAP had two comments. One was to refine the east and west facades, and then also to take another look at the east-west highway facade. So we have done that, and I will turn it over to Chris, who can make the presentation and explain the changes that we've made.
All right. Thank you, Pat. Good morning, everyone. Chris Huffer from SK&I. Just as a quick, reminder, our site 4505 East-West Highway is in the center of the Pearl District, right on East-West and Pearl Streets in the middle of Bethesda here. As Pat mentioned, last discussion, we kind of had two items of design discussion and then like a third item of questioning that just kind of came up, and we figured we'd give you guys an update on that. So as Pat mentioned, the first item was, request for us to go look at further refinement to the east and west facades of the north bar of RL. The second being, take another look at the east-west highway facade in terms of, just further evaluating it in terms of length and size, proportion, etc. And then that third questioning, there were some questions about kind of the activation, some of the sidewalk section on East-West Highway. So I think we just want to show you kind of a little bit more detail of where that was since the previous step. So one of the big questions for the north bar of the East-West Highway, or of the north bar on the east and west facades, sorry, it's hard with East-West Highway, was, is there a way to kind of better the proportion of those facades by creating a top? And one of the things we looked at was, our original partee is, we have this long L with a simplified language that's on the east-west facade that travels all the way up to the north bar, that's kind of split in half by a vertical dark bar element that kind of, creates our partee of a front piece, a middle bar, and a back piece. And one thing we wanted to do was kind of work on that and keep that consistent, because I think everybody agreed that that was a successful partee. And one of those elements was kind of keeping the parapet level having, we had this white wave articulation. It was articulated slightly different on the main facades to the back facades, but in all the partee, that kind of is a sticking point for our partee. So kind of looking into that, we looked at various forms of traditional architecture where we have a simplified language on how best to kind of break up that top middle base proportion. And looking at some of these brief examples, a good way of creating that top is utilizing belt courses, differentiating window sizes, and utilizing balustrades and balconies. And then similarly at the base, is distinguished using a similar or different material, belt courses, larger openings, potentially different materials, but also further articulation of a similar material. So, we believe we have a lot of those similar elements in our original design, and how can we further utilize that and break it down to create a better proportion for these elements. So looking here, these are a quick diagram of what we'd changed, and I'll go through it from top to bottom. One thing we've done is we've dropped the top floor of balconies one level to the 9th level and created a longer balcony to create more of this belt course type datum utilizing the balconies around that top floor. And we've aligned that with one of our step backs on the north, so we have this kind of syncopation around the whole building. This also helps really emphasize a 2-story reading for those top windows, further emphasizing that this is the top of the building. One other thing we've additionally done is, we've taken this white wave back element and raised it up a floor to detach it from the ground plane and create this 2-story base. In addition to doing that, we've also extended the same articulation that we have in the wave into the base, but we're utilizing a different color transition at the base to really distinguish that, but have that same clarity of the overall parti for that. To further emphasize kind of the middle portion, we've left these singular balconies within there, kind of that steeple the facade with a 1-story reading. And for the overall elevation, now we feel that we've gone from something that didn't really have a top, middle, or base. The discussion was, how do we create a top? But we've gone that next step further of adding and creating that full proportional facade of a top, middle, base here. As you can see here, this is the west facade. So this is on top of what was presented and what is proposed in that simple parti here. So you can really see that, bringing up the base, bringing down these balconies and extending those large balconies is really emphasizing that top datum and that base datum as well, while keeping the same parti intact of this front element, the back element, split by the tower in between here. We've utilized this on the east facade as well. So copying the same exact thing, we've mirrored it, made it a symmetrical facade. So I won't go over those items again, but you can kind of see previously we had a slightly different proportioned facade on this east side. As you can see on the top, it was an additional bay longer for this that kind of splayed in and creating a larger gap here, but to kind of help with our alley condition. But now raising up and creating this base, we felt that it was more appropriate to have that symmetrical facade reading, as it was a stronger design element going through. And so same views that you'd previously seen, just with the actual articulation and coloring. Here, obviously, the top is the previously presented, and the bottom is the proposed here. So you can see, it's de-emphasized the verticality that was kind of questioned on these facades, and kind of really created that better proportion for the overall facade that works well and talks to the main facade as well still. Going to the back, or to the west facade here. And then just a few repeat images of what we'd previously seen at a larger scale. So I think here you can kind of see that, utilizing those longer balconies, coloring the slab and the slab edge with that white color really helps distinguish that top datum that was discussed, and lifting up that base and keeping at the same plane, but differentiating the color, I think really just makes this whole elevation feel a little bit lighter, more proportioned, and not really as crammed in as previously designed. A view from the north edge, looking at the step backs and seeing how these changes correspond and talk to the step backs on the north side. And then again, this is from Pearl Street, looking down our service alley at that facade overlooking the church's parking lot. So one thing I didn't mention is with these larger balconies at that 9th floor datum, we've made